Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Minor League News and Brews. As you will see, the title of this one is Meet Me in St. Louis, Take Two. I was in St. Louis. I was at Urban Chestnut Brewing Company, and their Wi Fi was on the fritz because they didn't expect to have, I believe it was 5 wedding parties and all their guests coming in. Uh, I was trying to get on my digital hotspot, and when that started to pop up, so did everyone else as I was trying to keep them out, but it didn't really work so well. So sorry, guys, no minor league news and brews, but back here in the basement to talk about the Pirates farm system, how things are going. But first thing I want to do is kind of highlight things that I see across the internet, and it's not all bad stuff. I mean, people are interested in the minor leagues, in the Pirates minor leagues, and I love that. I live for that. But I just kind of want to educate fans a little bit, and I like to be educated myself. So, I mean, I reach out to some of the experts. I reach out to some of the players just to get the feedback of things that I should be looking for, and things that might stick out a little bit. So the thing that I call a lot of people that are following minor league baseball and starting to post about it, and that would be the big thing for me. Is I mean, a lot of people follow minor league baseball, but I notice a lot of people also starting to post about it, and they're picking out particular stats. And I like to call these guys the box score hunters, and for some reason, every single time I say it in my head, I like sing it to the tune of Jukebox Hero. Not going to do that for you guys, but you can kind of picture, or imagine in your own head, kind of how that would go. But I just want to take you guys like through the system from the low A Bradenton Marauders up through the high A Greensboro Grasshoppers, double A Altoona Curve, and then up to the Indianapolis Indians. And it's the stats that I kind of look for. I mean, I'm watching the games. I'm trying to see if I can see little things. I'm also watching any video that may be posted. I always throw out the love to Florida Prospect Report. They do a great job down there in the Florida State League. I think it's one of the writers for Baseball America has been posting a decent amount of stuff. I don't know how to pronounce his name exactly. I believe it might be Jeff Pontus. Has been posting some videos, breakdowns of Anthony Solometo. Great stuff to watch in Altoona. I mean, just a lot of coverage over there from the Altoona Mirror. And then up to Indianapolis. I mean, it seems to be there's a lot more video there, but also, all the broadcasters throughout the system. And also like to share my love with Anthony Murph, over there at Pirates Prospects, the man who posts and breaks down pretty much, like I said, he watches and breaks down more stuff than anybody. But let's start down in low A Bradenton and just kind of what I look for. And this is like, let's go with the pitching side at first. And this is something that will be throughout the system and the whole way up into the majors. When I pull up a stat line just to kind of see, at the end of the day, what a pitcher's, outlook looks like, how he's been pitching. I'm not looking at like the runs, earned runs, different stuff like that, because I mean, there's a decent amount of errors down there as guys are, just getting adjusted to being in professional baseball above the, Dominican Summer League and the Florida Complex League. So I always go to with pitchers the whip, the walks and hits per innings pitched, and that just kind of tells you, are they putting guys on base? If you have guys on base, more likely your ERA is going to grow and be higher. If you have that lower whip, then your ERA and everything else, I mean, you can kind of look at it, it should go along with that. So for a starter, I mean, you're looking for that whip to be at 1.300 or below. For a reliever, you're hoping it is below 1.00. But if it's upwards into that, 1.1 max, like a 1.2, especially for some of these younger guys, it's something that can be a little bit overlooked. And to go along with that whip for the pitchers down in Bradenton, down in the Florida State League, I would be looking at the number of walks, because it's kind of showing you how much the player is hitting the zone. I mean, the whip goes along with that, with the walks and hits per innings pitch. I mean, it's right in the name. But just to kind of see how many guys they're actually walking. The strikeouts mean a little bit to me down there, but there's a lot of wild swingers, younger guys, just kind of maybe just getting frustrated swinging at stuff outside the zone. So for me, I don't look at that as much. Now, on the hitting side, and when we're still down there with the Marauders, the first thing I look at when I pull it up there, everybody's looking probably at home runs. They're looking at batting average, looking at OPS. I'm looking at the walk to strikeout ratio. And if you're looking at the walk to strikeout ratio and a guy has a lot more walks or around the same amount of walks as he does strikeouts, it means he's being very patient with the pitches that he's seeing. And like I said before, a guy could get very frustrated if a lot of the stuff isn't coming into the zone and he, maybe is swinging a little bit more wildly. So I definitely look towards that. I mean, you can look at OPS because, I mean, that takes into, the on base percentage. So that will play into it a little bit. And then also, the OPS is there any power with this hitter? It's not that it doesn't mean anything, but my eye goes straight to the walks and the strikeouts and to see what that ratio is. Now, as you move up through to Greensboro, and if anybody's watching the video here, I do have the Greensboro Grasshoppers hat on here today. Was watching a decent amount of game and highlights of the Grasshoppers over the first couple of days here of the series. And so with Greensboro, everybody knows bandbox. We don't even have to say it. It's it's a small ballpark. So things that are fly balls other places will be home runs. I mean, anybody, just for reference, that was watching the Pirates series out there in Colorado and saw Rodolfo Castro hit a ball like 429 feet and it was a fly out to the track. And so you're thinking to yourself, I mean, I always go to Would It Dong. I believe they're still on Twitter now. I think that they are considered one of those bot uh, accounts or whatever, but it's a great one, and it showed that it would have been a home run in 29 out of 30 ballparks, and the only place it wouldn't have been a home run, of course, is where they were playing out there in Colorado. But I mean, there's not that thing for the minor leagues, and especially in high A Greensboro. So for the pitchers, on the pitcher side, I hate to say, I mean, I look at the home road splits, but from speaking to a lot of people that watch, the games down there in the South Atlantic League, they're saying that there are some other small ballparks, not maybe as bandboxy, I'll make that a word now, as where the Grasshoppers play, but I'm not really looking too much. If there is a big split there where it's like, okay, the pitcher's allowed 6 home runs at home and is only allowed 1 home run on the road, then I'll just kind of jot that down a little bit. But once again, the whip, the walks and hits per innings pitch is the biggest thing I'm looking at, and then also the walks and the strikeouts, and that kind of shows you, how a pitcher is performing. The earned run average, to me, not that it doesn't mean anything. I mean, you don't want to see guys, having these inflated ones that are up there in like the 6, the 7s, and the 8s, especially as a reliever. But even as a starter, if they're keeping it in the, the upper 3s, the 4s, and even the low 5s, it's not something that, I'm not too concerned about. Now, if it's down below 3, then we're definitely keeping our eye out for that, because you're putting everything together and trying to figure out what type of pitcher that you may have there. On the hitting side, I don't even look at OPS in Greensboro. I hate to say that I don't. I I go straight once again. I go to the walk and the strikeouts. The walks first, and then the strikeouts. May look at batting average a little bit just to see the type of contact that they're making. Um, but beyond that, it's walk strikeouts, and you've seen guys that have hit God, upwards of like 20, 25 home runs there. And then once they appear in Altoona, I mean, for the rest of the season, it drops down to 8 or 9 during that same amount of time, even in like, say 200 plate appearances in each place. So, I mean, but if a guy who's supposed to have some power only has, usually I put a cutoff right around 10, then I start to worry. But this is where, like, some of the stuff that you're watching, if you're watching it in the major leagues, like what I watch for from pitchers, what I watch for from hitters, when I'm looking at the box scores, when I'm, just looking at stats, which I do pretty much, all day, every day. The wife or friends will ask me, they're like, what are you on your phone doing? Are you tweeting? You doing whatever? And honestly, I don't tweet that much. I don't Facebook that much. I don't Instagram that much. I also see some stuff for me there, some comments, some articles, different stuff like that. But usually I'm just digging into the stats as much as I can. So once you get up to Double A Altoona for pitchers, I'm starting to look at the normal quote unquote metrics and stats that you would be looking for from somebody on the Pirates. Once again, like I said, throughout the system, the first thing for a pitcher I look for, I go and I look for that whip. And once again, to remind you guys, below a 1.3 for starters, below at least probably a 1.1 for relievers at that point in time. And I start to look more at the strikeouts as well, still keeping an eye on the walks. But at this point in time, the ERA becomes a little bit more interesting to me. I mean, there are those outliers of players that may have not had the greatest ERA in Double A. I'm looking back to like a Luis Ortiz last year. I believe his ERA in Altoona was somewhere in the 4.5 range. So if you just looked at that and didn't look at his whip, didn't look at his strikeouts, I mean, he did have a little bit of the walks issue there, a little bit of command. But I mean, if you just look straight at the ERA and you went down through their list, you'd be like, okay, well, he's probably about the third or fourth pitcher that I'm going to be looking at, and he probably should have been the first or second. So I do start to look at ERA a little bit, but always just not putting as much emphasis on that. And then for hitters, this is the first time where I start looking at OPS. I go straight to the OPS, and I'm looking to see how much power they have, and putting that in conjunction with the on base percentage. Are they slugging? Are they getting on base? I look at the average a little bit, but you also have to take into account the type of player they may be. Some of these guys may not be high average guys, but I would hope, even for a player that is more on the power end of stuff, in Double A, I start to get curious if their average is below like a 250. I like to see it up above the 265 for those power hitters, because I mean they should be advanced enough that they should be getting more hits, more doubles, more singles, whatever it may be, along with the home runs for a power hitter. But I definitely start to look at the OPS a little bit more. Like I said before, the pitchers, it's the same metrics you're looking at in the majors, and for Indianapolis, I mean, it's almost like I would have to be repeating myself a little bit, because for for the uh, for the hitters, straight to OPS is the first thing I do. But out of the corner of my eye, this is where, and especially with Altoona a little bit as well, I start to look at the K percentage for those hitters. Uh, if your K rate is creeping up to the 30s, or especially if it's above a 30, I start to look at that in conjunction with the OPS. If your OPS is super high, if you're a power hitter and you're up over 30, then the next thing I look for is what is your walk rate. And I mean, if your K rate is approaching 30% in any way, and especially if it's over 30%, you have to be at this point in time, you have to be over 10% on the walk rate. There's no two buts about it. Because I mean, my friend, my co-editor over at Inside the Bucs Basement, my brother from another mother. You've heard on one of these episodes before. Gary Morgan also has DK's Pirates Fan Forum that's out on video every Friday at 5, I believe, and comes out on audio every Saturday morning. But basically, like once you get into the upper levels of the minor league systems, your K rate is really only going to go at max about 5% in either direction. So if you're looking at a player who's got like a 35% and you're thinking he can get it down to a 25% K rate, chances that happen and are pretty much slim to none. Now, if you have a guy that you're a little bit concerned about that might be, 29 to 31, and you want to think he can get down to, close to that 25 range, then you know what? That's something that's within the realm of possibilities. Adjustments can be made on, you know, their chase rates, also their contact within the zone, different stuff like that. If you want a great example of that, go to Inside the Bucs Basement. I wrote an article on Nick Gonzalez not too long ago, and where his strikeout rate was at, where his base on ball rate was actually, uh, he was doing pretty well, but where those whiffs were coming at, they were coming in the zone. He also was chasing, so there's like little adjustments that could be made there. Now, as far as pitching, hopefully at this point in time, you're getting kind of the polishing, like the finishing touches on what is going to be your repertoire and the type of pitcher you're going to be, once you get to the major leagues. And for that, I mean, once again, just straight to whip. What does your whip look like? I'm looking at like, a Luis Ortiz. I'm looking at a Quinn Priester, a Cody Bolton from the relievers, Carmen Mlodzinski reliever, uh, a lot of guys, is Colin Selby. I mean, there's just so many that you're looking at. But for the starters and for the relievers, I'm looking at the whips, I'm looking at the walks, and I'm hoping, especially if you're known as, kind of like that K pitcher or that whiff pitcher, the guy's getting swings and misses. I mean, I'm really hoping that your Ks per nine uh, is above, 9. I'd like you better be striking out at least, one batter per inning at that point in time, because I mean, like once you get to the majors, when we had, I believe it was Jack McMullen on here, broadcaster for the Indianapolis Indians, also over at Just Baseball Media. We had him on, and we were talking about, some of these guys maybe swinging at your slider that's out of the zone. But once you get to the majors, I mean, these are ones that experienced hitters are kind of spitting on. So, I mean, definitely looking at that. But that's just kind of for people that are basically saying, like, I'm going to give some examples here. Pulled some guys up, right before this. Thought it was kind of the best examples at certain levels as to why I'm looking at, kind of like what I'm looking at. Like I said, a guy I watched a ton of tape. I shouldn't say tape because I don't watch tape. I'm not a scout. A guy I watched like breakdowns and videos and game film and stuff from uh, was Anthony Solometo. And Anthony Solometo, I mean, if you look at it, like the guy is generating a decent amount of swing and miss. In 12 innings pitched, he has 16 strikeouts. So there's the good stuff right there. But like I said, I would have went to the whip first to kind of see, to gauge where it was at. And this is an extreme small sample size. In 12 innings pitched, his whip's at a 1.50. I mean, that's obviously going to have to come down. A lot of people, the old school people would look at his ERA, the 5.25. Like I said, in Greensboro, it's not going to worry me too much, but I like to see it lower. I mean, and with him, you're looking at his age. He's possibly, playing up a level, 20 years old. Most of the guys he's facing are, a decent amount older than him. They're guys that have some experience, probably against a decent amount of college pitchers. So that's like a guy, from Greensboro that I would be looking at. Going up to Altoona, this one, I mean, I went straight to the whip on this one, and this is Jared Jones. It's another guy that's playing possibly up a level at 21 years old. Went straight to the whip, 1.32. I mean, like I said, it wanted to be around the 1.3 or below. So it's a little bit higher, getting 14 strikeouts in 13 and 2/3 innings and the 2.63 ERA. So you kind of look at that stuff, but then you want to dive into those numbers just a little bit more. For me, I mean, you'd be like, okay, he has six walks, but you know what? He's having a little bit of control issues because he also has two guys that he's hit by pitch. So there's other numbers that could kind of go into that, but the whip right now, not putting guys on, keeping the ERA low. If that whip goes higher, you'll probably see the ERA inflate. If the natural progression, if the whip goes lower, then hopefully the ERA would stay right around where it is. I went up to AAA Indianapolis for this next one, Osvaldo Bido, a guy that wasn't getting too much attention until he had a few good innings in spring training this past year. And he's age 27. We're looking at all these younger guys. We're looking at a Luis Ortiz. We're looking at a Quinn Priester. And Osvaldo Bido kind of flew under the radar a little bit. And for him, I went straight to his career whip. Career whip in 112 games, 486 and a third innings. It's going to tell you a lot about a guy. His whip is a 1.34. So that's saying that this guy could possibly be, a legitimate starting pitcher. And this year he's continued the hot streak that he had from spring training. In 12 innings, he has about 15 strikeouts, but you would have went to that whip first, and that whip is at 0.83. And that would be great for a reliever. But this guy is pitching kind of like in a long relief role, but also kind of in a piggyback role. They're putting, I saw the one game they put a starter, an opener in front of him. And he finished, I believe, with about 5 innings that game. So you're seeing a lot of good stuff from Osvaldo Bido. A guy that he got off to a super hot start. Just going to go back down to Bradenton for 1 second. Thomas Harrington. ERA doesn't look great, 7.04. Strikeouts, 11 and 7 and 2/3. But once again, that whip, the 1.57. Just a little bit concerning, but that's just like such a small sample size. First time, in professional baseball. But I did look for him, and it's mostly the hits because he's only walked 2 guys in those innings and went to those 11 strikeouts. So I would look to see if that continues. He'd get a little bit more swing and miss, and hopefully that whip would come down, the ERA would come down, but it's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. If we're keeping in Bradenton here, told you, hitters, look straight for the walks. Jesus Castillo is a guy that I believe I listed in my top 5 Pirates prospects this past week. Everybody would say, oh, he's hitting 317. He's got an 832 OPS. You know what? Those are all good things. All good things. 13 walks and 8 strikeouts. So he's showing a good approach to the plate, showing patience at the plate for a guy that's only 19 years old. And he has a partner in crime down there who has definitely started to kind of go on my radar a little bit. 20 years old, and Manuel Torrero. Like I said, let's go straight to, if you went straight to the walks and everything, the guy has 7 walks, 10 strikeouts. He's got the little bit more power with the 976 OPS, but as long as I'm seeing the walks and the strikeouts, I think at that point in time, the average will come along. You'll get them having to pitch into you and into the zone. And naturally, if you're more of a power hitter, more of an on-base guy, you'll see your OPS kind of climb a little bit. One of my favorite players last year from Bradenton, got a cup of coffee with Greensboro, is still in Greensboro again. Big power guy in Jace Bowen. 3 home runs down there. Like I said, guys, everybody would say that. And then they'd look straight towards the OPS, the 1.2 021. I'm looking towards the base on balls and the strikeouts. And right now, in only 48 plate appearances, so we're under 50, he only has 4 walks, but has 15 strikeouts. 15 strikeouts in 48 plate appearances. That's going to put you over the threshold of the 30%. And the 4 walks is only going to get you right around 8.3. So we'd like to see the walks come up a little bit, see the strikeouts come down a little bit more. A guy that it looks like Altoona is trying to get going a little bit here, had an amazing 2021, had a extremely disappointing 2022, and that's Matt Frazier. Matt Frazier was the player of the year for the Pirates in the minor leagues in 2021, and just basically tore it up. But last year, OPS of 617. You saw that power go down because he had 20 home runs the year before in Greensboro, but only had 6 all of last year in Altoona. This year, 2 home runs already, 826 OPS, 3 base on balls, 10 strikeouts, only 43 plate appearances. So definitely a small sample size, but they've been batting him towards the front of the order. So kind of noticed they've been trying to get him going a little bit there. Something that you like to see. And like I said, everybody go check out the article I wrote on Nick Gonzalez, because some of this stuff, I mean, he's hitting a little bit better this week, and actually over his past probably about 4 or 5 games now. But the one thing that is still concerning to me is the K rate. The K rate right now is 32.5%. He does, like I said, have the walk rate. Has always had the walk rate up above 10%. Last year it was 13.6 in Altoona, but you don't want to see the K rate go up. 28.5 last year in Altoona, and it's still 32.5. That was, in the smallest of sample sizes, right around 40%. So if you can get that down below 30, but as a guy who's around 28.5%, 30%, I mean, you're looking hopefully to maybe get that down to 25%, add a little bit of power. For that point in time. And just for reference, it is nice to see, the OPS up over 800. So it's showing that he is getting on base more, maybe hitting for a little bit more power, but the K rate definitely has to come down.
A pitcher of beer, a pitcher of beer. Let's order another pitcher of beer. That pitcher of beer should come over here. I love that pitcher of beer.
All right, guys, it's time for those beautiful beer reviews. And like I said, I was at Urban Chestnut, tasted some beers there, brought back some beers from there. And the one that I've been sipping on a little bit here, but since I've been by myself and just been talking this whole time and probably rambling, I haven't been able to sip as much, is the number 6 Stan Musial Classic American Lager, the pride of Denora, Pennsylvania. And this one right here is the one that I had, more than one of while I was sitting there, just because it was such a good beer, just an easy drinking. Comes in right at about a 4.5 on the weighted based on batting average. I gave it a 425. Adjusted down to a 375. Definitely just a very good beer. I mean, I said, everybody, the pride of Denora, Pennsylvania, if anybody didn't know that. Stan Musial, it's a good beer. It's a good honor. So if you go to Urban Chestnut, if you're ever out there in St. Louis, check it out. Next, we're going to go with the first beer I ever had from Urban Chestnut that my sister-in-law and her husband had brought for me when they traveled from St. Louis. It's Fantasyland, and that is a Midwest Coast, which usually you get like the West Coast IPAs, the Midwest the Midwest Coast IPA. Fantasyland, this one coming in at 6.5. Once again, around a 425, weighted on base average, adjusted down to a 375. And then we have the Urban Underdog Pale. This is just a great pale ale. I really, really enjoyed this one. Coming in around a 4.2. I gave this one 400. adjusted down to a 350. So just another great beer. And this one I got because of my brother-in-law. You can't really see it. It's shining a little bit too much. It's the Underdog, the Urban Underdog Lime, and he was looking for Bud Light limes wherever we went in our time in St. Louis. So I got him a 4-pack of this. I brought one home for my wife because she said she wanted to try it. I had a little bit of it out there. This one, I'm not a big flavoring of beer kind of guy. I don't even like sours that much. I mean, there are sours I like more, but if you just like kind of if it's just the lime in there, they did a pretty good job with it. I gave it like a 350, weighted it down to 300. Now for this last one. This one's going to be a live one here, guys, because my wife went out and picked this up while I was gone, and I have not tried one yet. And this is the Iron City iced tea, the Turners, which, I mean, it probably gets some points just because of coolness with the Turners, the Iron City, but it's been getting mixed reviews from the family members and friends that tried it at our house. So this one's going to be a live one. So if anybody's watching this on video, you can maybe see my facial reaction to what I think of it. I don't know what to think of it. Oh, it's like almost like a punch in the face to a degree. I mean, I like Turner's iced tea. Grew up on Iron City, so it's got like the nostalgia of both of those flavors. I don't know if I kind of would have put that together. Let me take one more sip here to. Okay, not as heavy. Maybe I gotta like turn it over and shake the next one up because it got a huge hit of the iced tea the first time I tried it, and then this time on the second sip, it definitely wasn't as much. You know what? I'm not gonna wait this one. This one's just gonna be a solid, and because of nostalgia and like I said, everybody maybe just turn it over to get like some of the iced tea to go to the bottom. I'm gonna give this just a solid 350. Um, it's one that you're going to have to try for yourself. See if you like it. Maybe you'll love it. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a big flavored beer type of guy, but when there's like the subtle hints, maybe that's why the second one was a little bit better. But for you, anybody that doesn't out there, please go follow at Bucs Basement, follow Minor League News and Brews, follow all the guys I mentioned in the show, follow all the minor league teams, the Marauders, the Grasshoppers. Go get your the Curve, the Indians. Go get your MILB TV package. It's so easy. I could be sitting there with the Pirate game on TV and be flipping through, all the games on my laptop, on my phone. It's just so easy to do, and I don't know why everybody doesn't do it.